So today I want to speak about why I chose spirituality over corporate. I'll tell you after these messages. I'll see you soon. So welcome back. My name's Sage. I'm from Karnak Holistics, where we learn together and we grow together in the sight of God. So today I want to speak about corporate and also spirituality and why I have made that shift and why I haven't gone back in that direction. First and foremost, I just want to say if you can like, share and subscribe. I'm just breaking away from my normal videos which I'm doing based upon the hero's journey, which I'm almost halfway through creating. So today, as I mentioned, I want to talk about corporate and spirituality and why I made a shift. Now, basically, let me start with corporate because I would like to end on, for me, a positive, which is spirituality. And for me, basically, the corporate, I was pretty crap at it, to be honest, to be blunt about it. I struggled being around people that was just a yes person, that was just dealing with the tight boxes that they live in, the ways of being that they were driven by making money, having targets which would equal money, and sometimes walking all over certain people and not having a humanistic side to their side of business. Now, don't get me wrong, there are different companies and different people that are not like that. And so for me with corporate, I spent a long time in corporate. Even being spiritual, I even used to write a star chart. So basically, it was like an astrology chart for their magazine. However, I just found for me that I kind of outgrew it. For me, this is, as I said, I'm talking about my own perception and where I've been. And I just found it really quite draining. It just wasn't me. Now, I found that like while my children were growing up, I spent a lot of time looking at how I could be the bigger or the better corporate person and live in somebody else's shoes, which were my shoes, but it was somebody else's types of living, in order to be in a place or have a status which really identified with people around me, not what I wanted to be. So in essence, I became this embodiment of other people's projection within my own industry or within my own job. And some of the people didn't even know what I did, what my job was. But again, I have to go back to me owning it, because it's their perception of what I thought they wanted me to be, not what they said I should be. And in essence, it's like I had to be a person which kind of just fitted in that normal ways of thinking. You get up at 6 or 7, have your breakfast, you get dressed, shower, whatever, head over to the office, and then you spend the day talking to different people around the world, which was really good. Made amazing friends. I still have my best friend I've known from that life. But we're both quite different now, and we both do different jobs, and but we're both kind of holistic in a way of what we do, and we both followed our passions, and it's led us into an industry which is right for us. Now, I still know a lot of people in corporate which still they find it quite it's their beginning and their end. That's fine. I still love them both the same. I'm just saying it just wasn't for me. And it doesn't make me a lesser person or a better person because I made that transition to go off to do something else. It's just I wasn't happy, and I was really, really, really unhappy being this person or this projection of this person that I just don't want to be. So this branches over to spirituality. And again, as I mentioned, while I was in corporate, I was still doing a lot of spiritual work. So I was still writing for the magazines and doing astrology charts. It's called, the stars, like, the zodiac stars. I was writing for a magazine there, which was shipped around the world. But what I was still doing, I was doing platform. So that means I was a medium. So I would go on stage and I would do my work, and I'd be go to different spiritual churches around the different parts of London or England and so on, do my work. And I would also go off and do psychic events. I would also put on ghost walks where I was lead medium and things like that nature. I was doing tarot readings, and I had two lives, and they didn't necessarily balance in a way. And I remember being in, I think it was Glastonbury, and I was talking to someone there, and I remember they said that you can still be in a corporate industry, but be spiritual, and that's who you are. That's what you are. You are a spiritual being living in a corporate environment, and you can change it from within outwards. And I kind of did, because when obviously it was revealed what I did do, people were surprised because they had this perception what I was and what I did do. I was always in a nice suit, a nice car, always joking about, always focused on hitting targets and so on and so forth. But people who knew me knew that wasn't me. So it goes off into, let me talk about my spiritual side and what drove me that way. And now when I made the change over, or when I really put my mind into and my consciousness and unconsciousness into going down this path, it changed a lot of things around me. It changed a lot of people, and a lot of people left and were no longer around me, which is fine. But as I said, when they go, they get replaced by people that matter in this time in order for me to be who I am. And again, just because you're going through spirituality and you meet certain people, it doesn't mean that they're going to always remain, kind of thing. So, but we all know that things change and shifts. But as I grew into spirituality and I accepted who I was and embraced my inner self and my power, I began to vibrate on a different frequency. Once I vibrate on a frequency, as you know, by the law of attraction, you have to bring in people that are vibrating or wanting to ascend to that same frequency that you are on or vibrating at. So I will go to different events. Even now, I'll go to different psychic events. I will go off to, I don't do platform as much, but I do a lot of one-to-one readings. I do face-to-face coaching. But the bridge for me from corporate to spirituality was me studying counselling. So when I studied counselling, and I remember sitting in training, and my tutor was talking about what we do, what counselling is about, and so on and so forth. And I was doing spiritual coaching before I went to counselling. And some of the techniques I was using in spiritual coaching in my corporate life, it was very similar but rebranded in the West under another name. Like free chair, which is Gestalt theory, which we use spirituality, we use spirit in a third chair. So you have your client, and you'd have, say for example, the client in spirit. If a spiritual person comes to me and want to have issues with themselves, and they want to get in touch with somebody else, like a mother or father, and have issues there, spiritually you can get them to visualize and manifest that spiritual being in that chair. And Gestalt does that, but they use the same method. It's called free chair. You use the same method, but you visualize the person in that chair, living or past. Similar process. But when you do it spiritually, you tap into the spirit that is manifested into the chair, and you share kind of like you're like a translator. The other thing was, there's another, when I was studying, there's another thing called, it was done by, trying to remember his name. It was personal centered, Carl Rogers, and that was created in the 50s. And he did that. You worked with the client, and you empathized, not sympathized. You have empathy with the client, and with that, you became a part of the situation for you to help them identify what the situation is and what the outcome should be. Now, spiritually, we used to do the same method, but we used to tap into the client, and then we used to know what the client was at and where they're at, and then we will use empathy and spirituality, and then read auras, read the chakras, and then really engage with them on a spiritual level, working with the human side of them. So where you use personal centered, you would connect humanly and emotionally. From a spiritual point of view, you would connect spiritually, then emotionally, then humanly. So the methods are still quite the same. But what I found when I was doing my work, when I was studying, I found I was giving people readings, which was, I'll just be banging out all this information to the person. I remember one tutor saying to me, look, you're not giving readings, you here to kind of like reflect back. So the reason I'm saying this is because that was my transition into now doing spiritual coaching and doing transformational coaching, and now working with people, even doing tarot and stuff more, and also doing Reiki. All that, it was that I saw what the bridge was. When I was in corporate, I couldn't really see what the bridge was. I was still mainly focusing on trying to make it happen than allowing it to happen. And sometimes you need to just make it happen, let it happen. Sometimes you need to have inspired action for you to make it happen. But you need to really get to know yourself first in order for that to happen. So for me, when I've been spiritual and having this ability and being able to just work within my own frame of spirituality, and it is me, has helped me to develop as an individual, to be able to share what I do with people and help them on a deeper emotional and spiritual level than just it being on a physical and human level, which is equally as good. Sometimes that's what people need, is to be working that level, because sometimes they can't deal with the other levels of consciousness or even unconsciousness. But it is important when you're really understanding who you are and what you want to be, that you are okay with it, that you are comfortable in your own skin, because your transformation is so powerful. Later on, you will go and work with other people, and you will be shifting yourself on different paths in order to make yourself be able to vibrate better, in order to work with your client a lot better. And not just your client, because when you're happy, your family's happy, and your partner's happy, and so on. But that was me and my shift. And a lot of people keep saying to me, do you miss it? And I said, well, not really, because even in the industry that I'm in now, I still go into that industry, corporate industry, and work within that field. But it's no longer 100% in that field. It's something like 10% in that field, which is fine for me, because it does help with certain things. Don't get me wrong, I do like the finer things. For example, I do like having a nice phone, nice car, and so on and so forth. But it's not the beginning and the end for me, if that makes sense. It's almost like I like certain standards, and it's not an ego thing. It's just where I sit spiritually. I like to know that just because I'm spiritual, that I don't have to be poor, or if I'm spiritual, I don't have to go without. If I'm spiritual, I don't have to have the old phone. Because for me, when people who are, for example, in corporate, let's say, who are not, who are quite not as open-minded about spirituality as you would be if you're spiritual, you doing well, that's what they see. They see the aesthetics of you, but then when they get beyond that, they start seeing the type of person that you are. So for me, when I go to clients, I'm normally in a linen suit. When I say linen suit, it's like a top and trousers. But I drive a right car, and I have an up-to-date phone because I have need for it, because I do a lot of YouTube work, or I do a lot of coaching when I'm traveling. So it's a need than having an old phone, So you need to think within the boundaries what's suitable for you. Don't be limited by what people say about people being spiritual, being poor. That's why they are, and they should be suffering. There's aspects of us having to endure our own growth and our own loneliness and isolation and sadness in order to have our expansion. But we do that already as part of our development and when we shift into the next level. So why add to an ever decreasing circle? It's what I wouldn't, I would just have things which help me to help my client and represent God, obviously. So I hope that's helped, and anyone who obviously is spiritual who's just having this dilemma, be Paul, I should be this, I should be that, because it's a natural process. Don't feel afraid to think that you are on your own, or you're not. It is a natural process, but it's happening to you, so it's important. If you want to just drop me a line, you can do leave comments below and I'll get in touch. But in the meantime, you know what? Enjoy your path. Enjoy your journey. It is so powerful, so beautiful. Why let people or things or people's perception of what we should be or what you should be like because you're spiritual? Stay blessed, stay safe, and namaste. And I'll see you in the next video.